my first JAM in 2015. I chose Unilag. I applied for medicine. But when the results came out, they didn't pick me. I wasn't on the list of admitted students. So I made up my mind that maybe the school and the course is a competitive one, and even if I passed, I might not get in. So I was scared to choose the same course or the same school again the following year. So in 2016, I wrote my second JAMB, and I chose biochemistry in Unilag. So I passed and I got in on merit list. But in my second year, I was advised to change my course because biochemistry department was in Unilag. You would have to attend lectures from 200 level. You have to attend lectures at a distant college at Idiaraba. So it was far, and considering my condition, I knew I wouldn't be able to cope. So I applied for a change of course in 200 level to cell biology and genetics. I chose cell biology and genetics because it aligned with my area of interest. I wanted to know more about genotypes and cells. So I chose cell biology and genetics, and I got in 200 level. Initially, I didn't choose a private school because the private school I had in mind wasn't offering the medicine course. It was not accredited. So I chose a federal school at first because it was medicine I chose at first. So the second year, I don't know, it just didn't click again to choose private school. So I just continued with Unilag. It was really tough because even from 100 level, I did a few lab practicals upstairs. So it was very hard conveying my working frame to the laboratories, and there was no exemption for disabled students or anything like that. So in 200 level, when I changed to cell biology and genetics, the practicals became more frequent. I had to go to the laboratories even more often. But at that time, I had just dropped my crutches, and still it was very difficult because I felt pain walking up the stairs. It was a very difficult experience.
Joy's course of study is a unique one, as she studied cell biology and genetics, a course that very few opt for. Did her health play a role in her decision to study this particular course? She made the jump. She got the course she always wanted. But how is she going to cope, work around, in an environment where 80% of the students are very healthy?
In my first year, I got some people coming to me to offer help. There was a girl in my hostel that even offered to help me wash my clothes. Like if I needed anything, I should come to her or I should just call her. But in my second and third, fourth year, I'd already dropped the crutches. So my health challenge was almost invisible. So it was only when I felt sick, my roommates would call the porters and they would call to the medical center to pick me up from the hostel to the medical center. No, I think it was the other way around. There's this friend of mine that said she had always known me from 100 level, and I wasn't really receptive to being her friend. That I think that I made a statement that time that I didn't want to be pitied or something. So, but now we got close in 400 level, and she mentioned that she wished she was there for me throughout those times. A lot of times, sometimes the crisis will start in the middle of the night. We would all be awake, no one would sleep. I would be crying in pain, and we had to wait for at least day to break for them to take me to the hospital. So there was a lot of struggles like that, and they had to cry with me sometimes. And my mom stayed with me in the hospital a lot. My sisters, they stayed with me in the hospital.
Now a student with a serious health condition, she had to go through a series of tests, take several drugs that had their effect on her, and she had to bear it all. For instance, there were times when she wrote her exams in Unilag Medical Center. How did she cope?
Yes, it became more difficult. In my 200 and 300 level, I was having crises very often. Sometimes it was every week. They would rush me to the hospital, and then when I get discharged, it won't be up to 1 week. I would have crises again, and then they'll have to take me back. I wrote some exams on the hospital bed, and if the doctors felt like I was strong enough to go and write it, they would just release me, and with drip in my hand, I'll go to the exam hall to write the exams and then come back to continue treatment. But other times when I was weak and I couldn't go, the examiners would bring the papers to the hospital. It was difficult because sometimes the injections they give me make me feel sleepy, but I just try to stay awake and read. And the hospital then didn't have so much distractions, unlike my hostel where my roommates would be gisting and I won't be able to read. So just me and the nurses coming to check on me sometimes. So I just use the opportunity when I'm awake to read.
To know more about this Amazon, Joy must have found it hard in the midst of all these struggles.
Crisis is that moment when sickle cell pain starts. It can be very severe. It can be very severe pains in your bones. It will be like someone is actually using like an object to hit your bones, and it's always very chronic. That's what we call crisis. There were a lot. I can't even count the amount of times I felt that way, that I'm just tired of this thing. Can this just stop? When it starts, it gets very severe, and I just feel like this is the worst I've ever had. And then crisis would happen again another time, and I'll feel like, no, this is the worst. So I have a couple of them like that.
The struggle of her health is enough stress for a young lady. But what kept her going? What was her drive force? What kept her moving, even when she had every reason to throw in the towel?
My motivation, I would say, it was my health in general, and then my family. I felt like I had been through a lot to not come out with excellent results, at least to compensate myself and to compensate those around me that went through all of this stress and all of this heartbreak with me. We like call it something like that. So I would say it was just something I wanted to put joy on my face and the faces of my family.
For someone of her health status, aiming for a first class is like reaching for the stars. But she reached and she got it. Once again, how did she do it?
I knew from my 100 level, when the first result came out, I had a 4.0 GPA. So I felt like if with all these crutches and everything, I can have this GPA, that means I can go higher from here. And when I'm strong and I'm better, I can put in more work.
A lot of people would wonder how she came about being a sickle cell. Was she ever angry or blamed her parents for what she goes through?
The only time I would say I felt that way was maybe when she's scolding me that I don't take my drugs, or I'm just like, when I'm in crisis, I'll just be like, don't shout at me. You know, if you were not AS, I won't be here, something like that. But aside that, I never really felt any form of hate or any form of anger towards her.
Considering her health status, Joy definitely missed out on a lot of school fun and even dates.
Yes, I missed out from the first half of my school life. I missed out on it. I didn't go out unnecessarily, but I'll say from 300 level, in the night, of course, I have to get dinner. So I go out to get shawarma or anything I felt like eating. But when it comes to hangouts, social hangout like beach or anything, I always stayed away from it because beach is a cold environment, and I felt like anywhere I'm going, I have to consider my health if it's going to affect my bones. So I don't go to certain places. Most times I just go out on little dates with a few friends, like just 1 or 2 people. I don't make it exceed that. And they have to understand my health condition, so anything that happens, they know that, okay, I'm going to bring a hoodie for you or a sweater for you in case the one you're bringing is not enough. So I only go out with people that understand my health condition in case anything happens. Okay, I have to take at least 2 bottles of water. I have to take a sweater, and I have to take my pain drugs in case, because sickle cell crisis is unpredictable. Sometimes the pain can just start from nowhere. So I take those 3 things. They are important. I rejected a lot of dates because when I know that nothing is going to come out of this, so I'm not interested in this relationship, I just reject the date to avoid stressing myself unnecessarily. But I was in a relationship at some point, so I went on dates.
Looking at genotypes, SS getting married to AS is not advisable. What does a survivor have to say about this? Because Joy is the only one in her family that is SS.
It scares me because I hope to get married to a very understanding partner that will always be there for me. Like if I have crisis, he can leave whatever he's doing and be there for me. So that's just one of my fears, that I have to get married to someone that is very understanding. And then sometimes I think about the stress of raising kids, and I just think that I might not want to have kids of more than 1 or 2 in numbers. I don't support it at all, because you are bringing an innocent child into this world that it's not like you consulted the child that should we do this, should we go ahead to do this. So it's the child that is going to suffer all of the consequences of what she did. So it's better not to bring a child to, if you are AS, you shouldn't get married to AS and bring a child into this world. Except if you plan to adopt kids or don't have kids through the biological means.
A rare gem like this in a country like Nigeria is bound to go far. If she can make it, then you can make it.
My advice for them is to not neglect their health. They should take care of their health, because at the end of the day, it's still their body they need to achieve their goals, to enjoy their life. So they should put their health first in most situations, and they should not neglect themselves. And also they should believe that they can achieve whatever they want, and sickle cell is not going to stop them.